tonight. Backwards. And it is a breaking ball. Schwarber was ready. How far does this go? Second deck. Kyle Schwarber tees off. 2-0 Phillies. That last at bat that he had when he got that single, it looked quick, short to the ball. It looked like it unlocked something, and he sat on it and crushed it. 119, 120 miles per hour off of the bat. That's one of the
unreal home run from Kyle Schwarber of your Philadelphia Phillies last night. The Phils beat the Padres. This is Interesting to See, a sports podcast. News, narratives, takes, gambling. It is Controversial Wednesday. This is the stupidest segment idea I've ever had, but I'm going to keep doing it. I've been doing it for like a year. Let's do it. Kyle Schwarber, the lefty, one of the biggest home runs in MLB history. If it had been one of those parks where there wasn't a deck up there, it would have been maybe 600 feet. It was 120 miles per hour. It was gone in less than 2 seconds. That's a real thing. Unfucking real. Yu Darvish pitched his balls off, though. What a great pitcher that guy's become. He came in with a bunch of hype. He got hot. He got cold. And his last 4 years, he's been electrifying. Pitcher's duel, though. Zach Wheeler didn't give up any runs. The Padres got one hit by Zach Wheeler in a complete game, I think. I don't really remember. But Yu Darvish pitched his ass off. He gave up 2 home runs. One pop fly that just kept drifting, and then the biggest home run like most people who are alive have ever seen. Maybe not. I mean, Cecil Fielder, legendary at Tiger Stadium. I think it was in the All-Star game. He hit the lights, which were above the second deck. But it's like it was at that level. Absurdity last night. Okay, Controversial Wednesday. I've got some stuff for you. We are going to get into NFL ownership, which had some earth-shattering shit happen yesterday, kind of. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Earth-shattering-ish shit happened yesterday, and of course, Jerry Jones is doing some creepy stuff. But we're going to start today with Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson, if you've been watching the body language and stuff, and people have been like, okay, now that he sucks, he's going to say that he's hurt, and here it comes from the agent. The quote was from the agent, it's a real injury, he's in real pain. Like, okay, whatever. And now you see like he's forcing his teammates to high-five him. He's saying shit to the sideline like, yo, run or pass. Like, dude, we're pros. And so he's gotten so annoying and so cringy. Richard Sherman, who's mad at Pete Carroll and a bunch of other people for prioritizing Wilson, they hated him because he got too much credit. If you remember, in the back-to-back Super Bowl appearances by the Seahawks, Russell Wilson threw the interception in one of the probably the stupidest play in the history of maybe in the history of sports, if you consider what was on the line. Threw a pick. They should have ran it to Marshawn Lynch. I can't believe Russell Wilson didn't audible. Like, hey, let's just run it to Marshawn Lynch. If we can't get it 3 times, it ain't happening. Well, his teammates hate him for that, and they hate Pete Carroll for that, and they hate everybody for that. One of the worst play calls of all time. And then now all the shit's surfacing about him, about how much they hated him and how annoying he is. So here is, Richard Sherman has some sort of podcast. It's PFF or somebody who pays him to do this. CBS Sports, I don't really remember. But he had Marshawn Lynch on, who's incredibly insightful, but he's kind of a stoner and a weirdo, so you never know when to take him seriously. Here's what he had to say about Russell Wilson.
Right now, because he on a struggle bus.
Man, I want to reach out to dog, bro, because
Then reach out to it.
You know it
His
ain't
manager.
that. You know it ain't. Man, come
His
on,
manager.
nigga. If I can't call you direct, nigga, then I ain't calling you. Especially, nigga, if I done went to war with you.
Yeah. So language there, but regardless, what he's saying is he's highlighting a situation that Russell Wilson set up when he was at Seattle, which was that he didn't want his teammates like calling him. He had them go through his like scheduler. I'm not fucking joking. That happened in Seattle. And Marshawn Lynch's point there, as with whatever language he feels comfortable using, his point is that, hey, you ain't one of the team, dude. And he got too big for his britches and the whole Sierra stuff. I don't think he understands how annoying he is. All right, NFL ownership, like I said, and I mean it, earth-shattering shit happened yesterday in the NFL with regard to ownership, and that centers mostly around, obviously, Dan Snyder. Actually, let's get to something else that I was talking about before we do that. Jared Jones, there's a Jane Doe accusing him of putting his tongue in her mouth in front of Cowboys players. She wants a trial. So, no one talking about that. Crazy. How he just gets everyone to not talk about it. Dan Snyder. Okay, Dan Snyder. Dan the man. Yesterday, Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, who has had, I think he's like drugs and he buys guitars and he's had some dirty laundry out there. He was the first owner to publicly shit on Dan Snyder. And that's, as the Guardian put it, breaking the billionaire's code. Here's the quote that we have from the owners' meeting, from an owners adjacent meeting. I believe there is merit to removing him as owner of the Commanders. There's consideration that he should be removed. So he's considering that they are be removed. And remember a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, there was a report from ESPN that he had hired private investigators to dig up dirt on the owners, so if they tried to oust him, he would just shit on them. Daniel Snyder then denied that aggressively. He also responded to these claims and this letter that I will read for you. I don't know about reading it in its entirety because, like, I don't. Why? There are some parts of it that really are something. He really is just an enormous douche canoe. So here's his response to the whole situation. Let's just take a look. I would like to address a recent ESPN article that contains false and malicious statements about the Washington Commanders, our management team, me, and my family. And then he goes on to kind of suggest that he didn't hire anybody. He didn't hire anybody. And it's kind of like suggesting that he's going to sue ESPN, I guess. And then at the end, this is the greatest paragraph of all time. At the end, a fourth paragraph. Thank you for taking the time to read this, space. If you have any questions, Tanya, the actual majority owner now that he put her in charge or something, which was just bullshit, Tanya and I are always available to answer them, and we look forward to discussing these issues with you at the appropriate time. He starts the letter by saying, I hope you and your family are doing well. Sounds kind of threatening, Danny. So Jim Irsay breaking the billionaire's code. The way it works is, I don't know how math works, and you guys know that. It has to be 75% of the owners have to vote to remove an owner. They are a league. They are literally in cahoots with one another. 75% of them have to agree to this. And if one of them, like if 23, then he can't be removed. But they can remove any owner at any time for any reason. There doesn't have to be cause. But they're billionaires, and billionaires know that, like, hey, we should not, let's not shit on each other. Being a billionaire is pretty sweet. And the other owner's like, yeah. Jerry Jones has been remarkably silent in all of this, and I think Jerry likes him for two reasons. One is that he is the fool. And you can just take this guy's money. And, like, he doesn't understand what's going on. Jerry's in the same division as him, which is super helpful because the organization has been the least competent maybe ever. And honestly, beyond incompetent, like toxic and perhaps criminal. It appears to be very much criminal. We shall see how that plays out, but not a great situation in Washington. So Jerry's like, yeah, whatever. And Jim Irsay makes sense as the first owner to speak out, but everybody's kind of looking at some of the other big famous ones. Is it David Tepper, the New York real estate mogul that owns Carolina? I'm sure that he'll speak out soon enough. I mean, there are some old families, some old powerful families that own football teams. The Rooneys and the Mars and the Ford family are perhaps the oldest and most powerful. Nobody knows how much money they actually have. If you Google it, be like, oh, $900 million. Then you start looking at all their shit. And you're like, it doesn't make sense. So they're powerful enough to own publicly traded companies and have you not know how much money they're worth. Think about that. Yeah, they invented the assembly line. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, the owners' meeting, but there was apparently a spirited discussion as well about the roughing the passer situation, which I'm going to make very clear right now. Everyone's been complaining about roughing the passer, throwing people down too hard, and there have been some calls where you're like, what is he supposed to do there? True. If Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen get hurt for the season, everyone loses money. They are more important than you. It is that simple. Other news yesterday, we have some more controversial Wednesday stuff I could get into. Do I want to? We've been following the chess thing. Hans Niemann was in the cheater. Hans Niemann was involved in something weird again yesterday, but it was his opponent took his king off the board and then, like, broke it. That really happened. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Okay. Jermaine Burton appears to have hit a fan on purpose in the face. It's hard to see. It's at the bottom of your screen. It's really grainy. But he looks like he hit a female person dressed in Tennessee stuff right in her fucking head. She seems to be okay, but she does look back at him like, what the hell, dude? Rushing the field is tough. I mean, when you know the game is over, if you're Nick Saban, like, you got to practice this. I remember I was at Ole Miss when we rushed the field and we beat Bama, and then later that year we beat Mississippi State, who was at the time ranked like 4th. They were going to the college football playoff, and we kind of spoiled that for them. And there were a lot of security, and they were like, yeah, that was a one-time thing, y'all. Stay the fuck in the stands. And they were very clear about that. So I think schools are allowed to kind of do it. But I also think you got to be careful here, man. There's like 20,000 people on the on the field, and like those Alabama players, like what are they? Like they're just like wandering around. I remember rushing the field, and I'm like, hey, that's Amari Cooper. If I wanted to just tap him in the nuts, I totally could. And I like probably, other than him getting mad at me, nothing would happen. Nobody would see it. Nothing would happen. And like, so I think field rushing has got to get a little bit better. So when that field goal goes through, Nick Saban's got to be like, get the boys to the sideline, or you want the SEC to kind of step in and be like, okay, give them 10 seconds and then you can rush, like get to the sideline, get to the locker room, because you got to be pissed about that. I mean, it's a dangerous situation. It's like rushing the court in basketball is even worse because it's just like they're right there. They can just get on the court in seconds, which makes it crazy. So I mean, I don't want to be one of these old men, but I'm on board with like, hey, now, what are we doing? A couple other quick notes. The Bailey Zappi, the 5th or 6th round rookie for the Patriots, has been playing incredibly well. Mac Jones apparently has been a little too cocky in Patriots camp. So insiders are reporting that there's a little bit of a falling out in New England, and that maybe they're going to go with Bailey Zappi long term. Shohei Ohtani, the greatest team sport athlete alive right now, and like trending to be the greatest team sport athlete of all time, has been made it very clear in a Japanese media circle, I have a rather negative impression of the season. I think baseball's 2 biggest stars are wasting away in Los Angeles, and they can't do jack all about it, which is fucking nuts that they can't win with these 2 guys. It's fucking crazy to me that they can't do that. Tom Brady in the news again, apparently quoted to TMZ as saying he compares the NFL season and his personal life. It's tough to focus on just half of the year. He says that the seasons are similar to, quote, going away on deployment for the military. If that's a real quote, and you could hear him saying those words, it's going to be a rough week for Thomas, Patrick, Bartholomew Brady, or whatever the fuck his name is. That's not true. It's not like going on military deployment at all, especially when you're the GOAT and you are letting your addiction blow up your life. Shouts to the Arizona Coyotes. It's not controversial Wednesday. The Arizona Coyotes have tweeted the following graphic. It's on your screen now. It says 2002, the last time the Coyotes failed to earn at least a point while playing in Toronto, which is an interesting streak. But that means they've not lost in regulation in Toronto in 2002, and everyone's roasting them for this. Like, that's 20 fucking years, dude, that you haven't beat them in regulation at home. But they only play in Toronto once a year. I want to get out of here on this. The Phillies are going to sweep the Padres. You want to know how I know that? Because this video surfaced yesterday on a local news station in San Diego of how the fans are getting ready.
Philly going down to yellow and brown. That's what's in. Padres on the loose. Let's go, Goose. That's what's in.
So much weed in San Diego.
He's gonna lose, and Manny's gonna cruise.
Amazing.
That's what's in. Give Philly no slack.
Jesus.
And send them back.
This is a real thing. This really happened.
What's in.
That really fucking happened. Oh my God. Hope you enjoyed Controversial Wednesday. That might be the most offensive thing that we've ever discussed on Controversial Wednesday. I'll be back in Better Than Ever tomorrow, Thursday Night Football preview. The NBA tipped off last night. Celtics beat the Sixers. The Lakers are a mess. Warriors still good. Like, rate, review, subscribe. See you then.